Hi and welcome back to the channel. We have a real big box and there's a story behind this box. This was actually sent to me from one of our subscribers. He sent me an email and asked if I would be willing to review a guitar, and I was like, well, sure. He said, well, I'm going to send it to you. And I can't get over, the person knows me from YouTube. I just can't get over the fact that someone would send me a guitar to review. But here it is. He said that he clicked the option to have it double boxed from Amazon. And I did receive a guitar that was double boxed from Amazon. And I just assumed that Amazon had problems with it and they double boxed it. And I went back and I looked, and there is the option where for no charge Amazon will double box your order. And that's what we have right here. But first I want to point out, yeah, there is another box in there and it is flopping around. So let's open it up and see what we got. It's kind of funny. On this side we have the Amazon Prime tape, and on this side we just have regular packaging tape. So it's kind of strange, but we're going to open it up and check out what's in here. Okay. And it doesn't appear to have any packaging material whatsoever. So it is just, yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking when I picked the box up and I brought it over here. I was like, they can't have anything in there. So there's our second box. Let's slide this one over here, and then I'll get the bigger box out of the way. So here, oh, and he wouldn't tell me what he was sending me. But in prior conversations over back and forth, I was figuring he was going to send me an Eart. And which is good, because we haven't had an Eart on the channel yet. So this will be our first. So let's open this one up and see how Eart packages their guitars. I am unfamiliar with the brand, but I have heard really good things about Eart. From what I've seen on YouTube, they claim to have really good necks on them. And that is really taped. There we go. And this one, this would be my second one that I've seen this kind of packaging. Firefly uses like a soft styrofoam, and it goes down, they set the guitar and then there's a styrofoam cap. This one kind of looks like the last Les Paul that we did a review on. And it is snug in there. Yep, I call it the styrofoam sarcophagus. Let's open this one up. And it looks like they've got tape in. Right here I see a tape line and no tape. There's a little piece here. So let's hope that this wasn't a guitar that was sent out and then reboxed. Didn't appear so on the other box, but I do see a tape line right there. Still got another piece of tape. Alright. There's our top piece. And it is very similar to the LP guitar that we did as far as the way the styrofoam's laid out. Here, for the first time, they give you a manual. And it looks like they have a bunch of different guitars in there. Yep. So this probably goes over all their product line. That's pretty nice. We'll set that over there. Looks like we got a goodie bag. Looks like 3 Allen wrenches and a kind of looks like the end of a tremolo bar that they've machined down. I'm going to assume that's for a truss rod adjustment. This probably has the little spoke wheel. That's actually pretty nice. Set that up there. And here they've added a little piece of styrofoam. That was stuck on there pretty good on the switch, so the switch doesn't take damage. That's nice. And of course you can tell it's a headless. The only thing I see here is it looks like the little guitar bag is a little short to cover the whole instrument. And put that back in there. Let's check the movement. It's in there pretty secure, so it's definitely made for this guitar. That's nice packaging. Ooh. And we've got, looks like some paper over the strings. I've only had one other guitar that did that. I believe it was an acoustic. And of course, once that stuff's taped, you don't get it apart without tearing it up. So that's a good sign. And it looks like we've got like a little card here. Eart custom guitar. So I'm assuming this would be the headstock tag, but there's no little string or anything on it. That is that's really pretty. This is a burl poplar. That's what it looks like to me. What I really like about this is it's got a real thin coat, but they haven't filled in all the little cracks from the knots. So it leaves like a, it's like a little texture. Gives it some depth. It's really pretty right there. That's pretty sharp. Beautiful red back. And again, you can see the open pores in the grain. They haven't applied a sealer coat, like a sanding sealer, and built that up to get this perfectly smooth. I mean, it's flat and smooth, but you still have grain lines. That's pretty sharp. And you know what's next. We are literally going to take this guitar apart. We're going to check every aspect of it. Especially since a subscriber sent this to me. So I got to really make sure I do a good job. I don't want to disappoint. So we'll be right back, and we're going to start going through the specs and the setup of this guitar. Okay, I have the guitar up on a little bench here, and we're going to go over the guitar and look at the fit and finish, how the pickup routes were done, you know, the overall fit and finish of the components on the guitar. So let's start out like we normally do. Let's kind of go over the body. The top of the body is flat. There's no contour. It does have a slight contour here. It's an arm carve. And what it looks like they've done, since this is a poplar veneer, they have carved the main body, and when they've applied the laminate down, they've applied pressure and pushed this laminate around this carve. So they've bent the piece of wood to where it follows through. That's a nice touch. I like that. As far as the top going over to the sides, it's not sharp. It's not a crisp corner. That can be two ways. When they sanded the top and the back, that could just be from them sanding it and it breaks the edge. But it feels about like a 1/16 of an inch round over. It's pretty sharp as far as the corner. There's not really a round over there, but it has been eased, so it's not like super pointy. I'm not feeling anything peculiar. And it's done that way all the way around. The laminate top itself looks pretty thin. I'm looking at where the top folds over. It's not a 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to say it's more than a 32nd. We're going to call that 3/64 of an inch thick. And in some areas, it goes down to a 32nd, like right here. And that's from them sanding it as they put the sander across it. So it is a thin veneer. So it's not like you have a 1/4 inch cap and they've sanded it. They did literally bend that around this contour. And as far as the finish along the edges, where the veneer comes through, I'm not seeing any issues with that either. That is nicely done. This little pocket for the jack. On the CNC machine, when you come in and then you come out like that, a lot of times you'll get tear out right here. And I do feel a small spot right there. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's very difficult not to get what they call tear out when that machine comes through. The only thing you can do is run the machine in, stop, pull out, come over, and then pull in like this and sweep for this cut. There is a ever so slight little mark right there, and that is from the CNC machine. But I'm not seeing any tooling marks going across from the step downs. And in the light, I'm not seeing anything. And here again, we have some open pores from the wood. This is a little smoother than what we saw on the back, but there is some open pores. It's very nice. This little ear here for the neck pocket, that's very thin. It's very difficult to do your finish work and keep that thin and crisp and square to the neck. They have done that very well. That is done very well. On a lot of your lesser expensive guitars, which we've been concentrating on. Guitar is supposed to be fun. You want to be able to get a guitar at a reasonable price and be able to play it. Yeah, that adds just a whole nother level of fun when you can get an inexpensive guitar and it plays great. A lot of times they make this little fat right there and they roll it into the neck, and that prevents them from having tear out issues here when you get thin like this. When you start making this little ear that thin, it can break off really quick. This one's done very nicely. The neck to pocket seam, there's always a small transition, because remember here you've got, I'm going to say that that's 3/32 of an inch. It's not quite a 1/16. From that point to where it goes to the neck, there's a transition. And the neck sets in maybe a 64th. It's not perfectly flush, and that's that transition because it's got a ramp into the neck. But it feels super nice. They have added just a little bit of round over to that transition to where you don't feel that edge. That's very nice. Something else I see they've done, if you look at the body line here, a lot of your lesser expensive guitars will have a flat spot that follows that. And then this heel will round up and then it becomes flat. They've brought that heel back closer to the body. When you do that, it's more obvious if you have errors. This one is done pretty well. It follows the neck into body pretty well. It does get tighter here, and there is more gap at the top. And we're only talking about the profile. There's no gap or crack in the neck. We're talking about how it's eased in. But that is still very nicely done. It is very close for your transition. They've also added an easing here. This body line here is sharp, just like the top. Starting about right here, and it just doesn't go to the round over. It starts rounding over about right here. I'm going to say that's a good 1/16. Here's about an 1/8, 3/16, and then this is a nice 1/4 inch round over. And then it bleeds back to the sharper edge. That's nicely done. To get rid of that sharp edge that you have here, they've added that easing to make this comfortable. That's nice. Here we do have a tummy carve. And like I said, the back, you can feel the grain. So this is a thin top coat. I'm going to say this is probably a 2K poly, 2-stage poly, 2K. That's what it feels like to me. So that should really help the resonance on the guitar. It doesn't feel like it has a buildup of finish. The pickup routes are very crisp and sharp. They are not eased. That is a sharp edge. And looking at the routes, they're nicely done. And if I'm being super picky, if you look at the radius of the edge of the pickup to the route, the offset isn't the same, if that makes sense. So here in the corner, it's a little tighter than the sides. So the radius doesn't follow the radius of the pickup. And that's really being super picky. The route itself is done extremely well. I don't see any marks where the tool came up for the rapid movement. I'm not seeing any little spot on their tooling path that was wrong. It's nicely done. The route for the switch, again, looking at an angle on lesser expensive guitars, sometimes you'll see tear out little wood fibers. This one is nice. It's very clean in there. The screws for the switch are sitting flush. They're not sitting cockeyed one way or the other. The bridge is sitting tight and flat to the body. This is the exact same bridge that we had on the Valgoa with the HPL fingerboard. It has a little tool right here that pops out, and you can adjust these. And that little tool is right there. And we do have the neck rod adjustment for the truss rod is right here. And a spot that really gets left out is in here, where the neck is glued together from your fingerboard to the neck. And this one is extremely clean. There's no glue. I'm not seeing any ghosting from residue when they applied the top coat. The corner of the route is very nice and shiny. And the neck route here to the body route lines up perfectly. There's no offset. That tells me that they have their programming down. This neck pocket to neck joint it has been fine-tuned. They have it down. Our neck pocket on the guitar and how the neck fits in looks like it's sitting flat in the body. It doesn't look like there's a factory shim installed. If it is, it's extremely thin because it is setting tight to the body. Looks nice. The fingerboard to neck, you cannot feel it. There is zero transition. That's nice. The neck feels very smooth, and it has a satin finish on the back, and it is very smooth. Like I said, no transition. Very nice. Up here, let's move our stool out of the way here. Up here, the bottom of our nut is flush on the bottom side, and it does stick out past the fingerboard a little bit at the top. And this has what's called a 0 fret. So all they're using this for is to keep the strings aligned. So when it goes over this fret, they don't move. The hardware to the neck, again, it's nicely done. 2 screws hold the neck piece in. And I like this system because your ball end goes in on this side. I like that. That's very clean. This corner here on the neck is a sharper corner, about the exact same easing as our body. Same with this corner, and they've eased the back of the neck to that. It's very nice. And we have a 5-piece neck. Looks like maple, and I forget what the name of this, Burdock or something. Burdock. That's what it kind of looks like. It's a 5-piece neck. Makes for a very, very stable neck when you do that. Our fret ends to the neck. Again, this is great fretwork. There's no sharp frets. These are the ball end frets. Let's check the feel of the frets. These are definitely polished. They're very smooth. So the what I've been hearing about the Eart necks is true. This neck feels great. And I'm going to say that this probably has a pretty good first fretted note, just by the way the guitar feels up top. Or we will check that. Yeah, these frets have definitely been polished and worked well. I see no scratching or tool marks. Nothing that jumps out. That doesn't mean there isn't a scratch somewhere, but nothing that really jumps out. These are nicely done. As far as, I think I've said it in a couple other videos, some players don't like super smooth frets. I would say these frets are a little above a polishing job that you would pay a standard tech to do on your guitar. These are almost to glass level smooth. It would take if you like a super glassy fret, it would take very little work to get these frets to that point. They're almost there. They're super smooth. Okay, next up, we're going to check the relief on the neck, check the frets, and let's see what the radius on this guitar is as far as the fretboard. Okay, we're going to go over all of our neck specifications. We've got our gauge here. I'm going to try 25.5 to start with. And that's what it is. Let's set it up and see what we got. So this guitar does have a little bit of relief in the neck, and I have tuned the instrument. It is ever so slight, but I am seeing some light. We're going to say that's probably 0.2 millimeters of relief. So the neck is basically perfectly straight, but does 0.2, just a little bit. We're going to take our StewMac action gauge. We're going to check our factory string height. From the 12th looks like our low E is setting at 0.070 and our high E is set at 0.055. Might be 0.065. Somewhere between 0.065 and 0.070 on the low E. So that's a pretty typical factory string height. So now we're going to go through and we're going to check the neck for high frets. I'm going to go into squirrel mode, and I'll come out of squirrel mode if I find a bad fret. Okay, right there. And it is ever so slight. Yep, one spot. Pretty much non-existent, but I am pointing it out because it is there. And right here, it is even less than that spot. I would say 99.9% of the people would call that perfect, but there is just a fraction of movement. I'm going to call that actually good, and I'm picky. Okay, so really just one spot. This down here, it depending on how you hold the fret rocker on its edge, it'll show up and then not show up. So I'm going to call that side good. There's one spot up here, and as I said before, it's very, 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 very slight. I'm going to call that really good, especially with all the polishing that's been done on these frets. A lot of times you can level your frets, and by the time you crown them and then you finish sand them and then you bring them down to 800 grit and then you polish them, you've removed more material from those frets. So each time you do a pass, you're now changing that fret. You know, you have to remove more material from the top of that fret from leveling it. So to get it to that level, you know, as far as polished and level from the factory, that's really good considering how smooth these frets are. It's nicely done. I guess the next thing we need to do is check our radius. And I got a 9.5 here. I had heard that these are compound radiuses. So let's actually check that out. I'm going to move my camera over here so we can get a straight line look at the radius gauge on the neck. Okay, I had heard that these are compound radius necks. So we're going to double check. I have my 12. So we're going to stick our 12 in here and check it right here at the base. And it's got a little bit of a gap there in the center. Yeah. So let's try 14. Go through all my gauges and find a 14. Right, there's our 14. See what the 14 looks like. And the 14, I see a little gap here. That could have been from sanding, because it's tight here and here. There's a little gap on this side. That's pretty close there. So I'm going to say the base is either a 13 or a 14-inch radius. So let's leave our 14 right there. Let's take our 12. Go up the neck. And up here, it's tight in the center and loose on either end. So it's definitely not going to be a 14 up there. Yep. Tight in the center, loose on both sides. So here's a 9.5. Let's try our 9.5 up there. And our 9.5 is tight here, here, and there's just a little bit of a gap in the center. Let's double check it on the next one. Yeah. So the 12 is loose on either side, and the 9 has a gap in the center. So I don't have a 10-inch radius gauge or a 10.5. I'm going to say it's probably a 10-inch radius at the top, and then it goes to a 14 at the base. That's what the gauges are. That's what the gauges are telling me. Definitely a 13.5 to 14 at the base. I'm going to call it a 14. I think this right here is just from sanding the neck, because it is good on that side. And our 12 up here, like I said, on both sides there's a gap. So it's definitely a tighter radius than a 12. And my 9.5, there's a gap in the center. So we'll just call that 10 to 14 inch radius on the fingerboard. Of course, that extends out once you figure the fret itself. Okay, I have the guitar flipped over. We're going to check the cover plate to the body. Here it's flush. And it's protruding up just a little bit right there. Flush. And protruding up here just a little bit. And pushing on it, it doesn't seem to go down. The cover itself to the route fits pretty decent. There's a little bit of a gap here and a little bit over here. But all in all, it's a good fit. Now we're going to open it up and see what the electronics look like. And there's our back cover plate. There is something that I really haven't seen. You can see that this was run on a CNC machine. I can see the tool path. So they've done that for this right here. And that would explain why the cover is protruding up here a little bit. They have literally machined this to allow enough space for that switch. There is no shielding. Okay. It looks like it was nicely done as far as them putting the zip tie around the wires. And I am seeing a green wire here and a white coming out of the pickup. So it looks like these would be able to be coil tapped if you wanted to do a coil tap. And I've been seeing this a lot lately. If you look at this solder joint right here, there's two puddles. There's a lower puddle and a top puddle. So is it okay to do that? Yeah. When I do this, I try to get this hot enough to where the two will blend in. So they definitely did some stacking there. It does have a decent sheen to it though. That's a good solder joint there. And here it looks like they've got the exact same thing going on. The lower puddle joint was the first, and then they tacked on these. These joints are okay. Definitely got warm because the shielding is pushed back on this wire. Ground there. And they've come over. Here's something kind of funny. Here's your ground wire. And they've come over and attached the ground to the side here. And there's no shielding paint and there's no copper foil. So if you ever wanted to come back in here and do shielding, that would be one way of grounding it, but they've just literally grounded it to the body here. It's kind of peculiar. And they're running a cap that I'm not familiar with. I haven't ever seen that. It looks okay. They are using full-size pots. That's the labeling on them. HONGH. And they are 500K pots. It says right here, 500K. And we have a barrel jack. And that one does feel like it's metal. So that's probably a pretty good jack. And the joints look okay there as well. And there's our ground wire going into our bridge. Everything seems tight. There is some movement in this switch as I wiggle the switch from the front of the guitar. You can see. Okay, let's put the cover back on. Okay, here's the top of our guitar. We want to check our pot feel. And the pots feel nice. If you're reaching down with your pinky and playing, it's not too bad. I wouldn't say that these are friction free, but they're definitely not as firm feeling as far as the rotation as we've seen on the Valgoa or the Grote or the Firefly. I would say these are somewhere in between a friction free and a standard. So it is, people that roll it with their pinky would probably be okay with this one. There doesn't seem to be any scratching as far as the knob to the body. Like I said, it is smooth. Our switch, as we just saw in looking at the cavity, there is some movement this way. And I think it's the PC board that's attached to the bottom plate. There's some flex. As far as the switch movement, yeah, there's a nice positive engagement. As you push forward, it moves into the next position. It's got a nice feel, and it's smooth. I don't know if we went over it, but these panhead screws are down tight and flush to the body. There's no rough feel to them. They are smooth. So that feels nice. And as far as our bridge, the bridge feel, I don't feel any sharp edges. All these corners have been polished and rounded over. Even here, this has been rounded over. So it's nice against your hand. And even the control knobs, there's no really sharp edges to it. So it's got a nice feel. So if you're palm muting, you're not going to turn your hand into a cheese grater. It's very smooth. And on the back here, we have 2 Allen screws. One is a locker and one is an adjustment. I have not tinkered with the guitar, but from what I've read in the manual, you have to loosen one, and that frees the bridge. And then the other screw allows you to change your action height. And then you re-tighten the other screw to lock it into position. The screw down below is for your intonation, moving the piece back and forth. And then this is your fine-tuning knobs. And it does have a little tool right here. Comes out of the side of the bridge. And this little tool fits in that so you can turn it. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I tuned the guitar, I did use this. Some of these turn a little easier. The issue that I had with it was getting my finger in between the knobs and being able to turn it. And it seems like a pretty steep ratio. It doesn't take much here of a turn to really affect the tuning. I don't know if that's good or bad. It seems like the ratio is a little steep. And they may have done that because of the way the cam here works. They probably only have so much cam for that string and screw, the way it's designed. And this ratio worked best with the limited amount of space that they had for the gearing. But I did notice that. It seemed like they were very picky. With the tuning piece on it, it did make it a lot easier to tune. You didn't have to apply as much pressure with your finger. And then this, which goes in this direction, this is magnetic. And the magnet's pretty strong. You see that? I mean, it's got a strong magnet. I mean, it literally pulls it right into the guitar. So that's pretty strong. I think this would be easily lost. And I have looked on Amazon just for this key. And I don't think you can get just the key. You have to buy the whole bridge. So I would really pay attention to this and make sure you put it back in its housing. Your strings going through the back side, they lock into this cam. I need to do this. I need to put a set of strings on these to see how that engages. The way it says in the manual that there's a small hole in this, and you push the end of the string into that, and as you turn it, it cams around it. Almost like what you would have in a regular tuner, except instead of the pin being straight up and down and the string wrapping around it, the pin is going this direction and the string is wrapping around it like that. So I may ask the owner of the guitar if I can put some, new strings on the guitar and actually get to play around with this and, see how this actually functions. But that's our bridge. I think that it's okay. It's been well thought out. I do like the locking screw. That locks everything so it doesn't move on you. Our cam right here for our neck, that's nicely done as well. I think we pointed out this route is really good. And I have not played with the truss rod adjustment, but I do see that there's a gap here and there's a gap here. So that means most likely this is a dual action truss rod that will allow movement in either direction. Some of these I've seen and the spoke wheels tied up against the neck. So there's no room for adjustment. This one looks like there's some room in both directions. I have not taken it apart to see if there's a collet in there or a bushing that's pushing that out that it rides on, or if it's riding on the actual wood itself. But it is nicely done. The pickups themselves, I'm not going to take them out, but we know that they're a 4-wire pickup because we saw that in the electronics cavity. The chrome finish on the pickups look nice. They're nicely done as far as the finish work. Okay, I have my meter plugged into the guitar. We are in the bridge position. We want to check our controls. We are at 100%, and it is reading 16.56 in the bridge. Bridge and neck pickup, center position, 5.30. And just our neck pickup is 7.65. Now let's weigh this guitar and see what the weight is. I'm trying to hold it as still as I can. So it looks like it's going from 3,130 to 3,170 grams. Pound ounces. Looks like we're at 6 pounds. £6 10 ounces. Okay, I have the guitar plugged into our Robertson strobe tuner, and we are going to check our first fretted note and our intonation. Let's start on our low E. There's our low E. Dial that in a little bit. E on the 12th. Open. E on the 12th. It's a fraction high. Open. And our first fretted note. Really, really good. A on the 12th. Open. 12th. Open. First fretted note. Open. First fretted note. That one looks like it's on the low side. Yep, it's on the low side. D. Let's tune that a little bit. Open. 12th. That one's pretty good. Open. First fretted note. Pretty good. Here's our G. G on the 12th. Open. 12th. It's a little flat. Open. First fretted note. Little sharp, open, first fretted note, little sharp. There's our B, B on the 12th. It's a little flat, open. Let's tune that real quick before we go any further. There we go. 12th. Yes, it's a little flat. Open. First fretted note. Pretty good. There's our E, high E. Let's tune that just a little bit. There we go. High E on the 12th. That's a little flat. Open. First fretted note. It's pretty good. So only have two strings that the first fretted note's a little suspect on. And as far as the intonation, if you're going to be off, it's better to be on the flat side than the sharp side. Being flat is a little more pleasing to the ear. But all in all, the factory setup on this guitar is pretty good. Okay, I now have the guitar plugged into my amplifier. I have the volume all the way up, tone all the way up, and we are in the bridge position. We are on a clean channel. Let's go to our center position. If I can play it right. Neck position. Okay, still on the clean channel. Let's do a little mixture of some rhythm and a little bit of lead work. Center position. Let's go to our neck position. Let's go back to our bridge position. Center position. Neck position. Okay, I've switched my amplifier over to the crunchy channel. We're going to do basically the exact same thing. We're starting in our bridge position. Center position. Neck position. Okay, we're just going to do some medium lead, rhythm, kind of a mixture type stuff on the crunchy. Switch to our center position. Try our bridge position. Okay, I now have the amplifier switched over to the dirty channel. Missed a note. Okay, what are my final thoughts on the eArt? First, let's go over the problems that we found. We found the rear cover plate has a machined routing spot for that three-way switch. If you decide to put copper tape in here to shield that, it's going to short against the switch. There's a couple things you could do to fix it. You could route the guitar body just a little bit more to lower that switch down into the cavity more, or you could change the cover and apply it to the top of the guitar, which you would gain about 1/8 of an inch, and then you wouldn't have any issues. The other issue we found is this nut right here isn't quite flush on this side. It's about a 32nd of an inch sticking out. That's an easy fix, 5-minute fix. We also found one fret that was a fraction high, and it's just a fraction high. You could slam the action on this guitar and you're not going to have any issues. I am going to agree with the videos that I've seen on YouTube and say the neck on this guitar is phenomenal. The fretwork on the guitar is probably the best that I've had the opportunity to review. The frets are just really super smooth. If you had to pay your guitar tech to do this, he would have to spend quite a bit of time to get the frets to this level of polishing and smoothness. It's done very well. The only other thing that I can say about the guitar is the jack right here. Depending on how you hold it, if you're holding the guitar like this, the jack is here, so you have to use a right angled 1/4 inch plug. And there is sufficient room for your right angled, 1/4 inch plug to come out and clear this ear on the body. So it was thought out, but you will need a right angle 1/4 inch plug if you plan on playing the guitar in this orientation. The overall fit and finish on the guitar is outstanding. It truly is made well. It's a beautiful guitar. It truly is. And it plays phenomenal. Anyway, if you all like this kind of content, the really in-depth type reviews and demos, please hit the like button. Leave some comments down below. Tell me that you like it. Am I doing what you guys want to see? If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. When I see that subscriber count go up, it makes me feel good. It lets me know that I'm doing what you guys want to see. Anyway, I want to really thank the person that sent this to me. He doesn't know me from Adam. He just saw me on YouTube and sent me a guitar. That's amazing to me. I truly have some great subscribers. If you've got a subscriber that's just going to send you a guitar, hey, here's a guitar, review it, tell me what you think of it, that's awesome. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please smash the like button and consider subscribing.